So, I think it's time I give my final score for the game. Because for all intents and purposes, I think I'm done. Yeah, it's a visual novel style game with tactics elements to it. I mean, it has gameplay. There are tactics games that have quite a bit of story to them, but they're balanced better than this, and the narrative actually tends to be compelling. And the characters don't tend to have so much forced chatter. In fact, the amount of chatter that is experienced in this game is the least amount possible. There are side conversations and things I can be having that I've decided I just don't want to have because I don't think the characters are interested enough to really justify doing it. Um, I was hoping the game would reach a 70 in score, just because I felt like that was going to be the highest level of achievement that the game would be able to hit. But unfortunately, I don't think it's reached that. I think the highest score that this game can realistically obtain is going to be a 68. For all intents and purposes, this game is going to have a 68 score. And I want you guys to understand like how bad that is for a tactics game, because tactics games in general are pretty good because they tend to be engaging. They get me to think more about my turns. They get me to very carefully select my units and their abilities and what they can do. But this game fails utterly at being a tactics game for one simple reason. And the simple reason is they don't give you enough variety between different class members for you to choose one versus another. In any good tactics game, there needs to be checks and balances. I should be able to bring a mage into this map. I need an archer in this map. I need a warrior on this map. But there's not enough diversity between units. Number one, everybody moves the same amount of spaces. In fact, the only person who hasn't has been Natsumi. She's the only character who's broken the mold with moving 4 units per square. Everybody else has come in and has used 3, and 3 has been basically is actually pretty pitiful for an amount of movement. In any other tactics game, it's usually been default 4 or start with 5 movement for the default class with the ability to gain more as you class up. But class up doesn't seem to change the amount of movement you have. We've classed up Raj at the beginning of the game. He still kept 3 movement, which has been kind of stupid. And not the other part that's stupid is you can change and upgrade your character stat-wise. Thank you. You're right. My rant is actually making me thirsty. So the thing that's beneficial about this game is you can keep your EXP in one master pool and spend it as you need to. If you don't want to spend your level up points right there at the level up screen, you don't have to, and you can store them away later. That is actually great programming. What is not great programming is you can't use them later. You can use your skill points later and access them from this menu, but if you want to level up outside of battle, you cannot do that. That means the only way to level up any one of these characters later is to go into any one of these skirmish throwaway maps, fight a battle you absolutely don't need to fight, and then go to the level up screen afterward and level up your characters. But there's also a catch to that. You can't just level up any of the characters. You can only level up the characters you use that map. So you have to summon the specific characters you want to have leveled, do a random map you don't want to do, and then you have access to the level up screens so you can finally level up your characters. I don't know why they make you jump through that extra hoop. You should just be able to level up anywhere like you could with your random stats that you could just distribute to anybody. But the most obnoxious thing out of anything in this particular game is its dialogue. It goes way too haywire with trying to make the lore interesting, with making the characters compelling, but they're not. And the reason it's not is because Summon Night 6 is an anniversary game. It's not meant to really, I guess, tell its own story. It's meant to try to reinvent and reimagine, I guess, all of these characters from other stories. Well, guess what? I haven't played the other games, and after this one, I really don't intend to. And the big problem with doing that is it doesn't have a core identity or core narrative. It doesn't try to focus on its own individual characters to tell a story. It says the story is too complicated to really understand. We have no idea why any of us are here, and the main characters don't even think about the world that they're in, and so there really isn't any deeper understanding to be gleaned from this game in the long run. You know, I I have played tactics games that have had like no story to it. Guardian War, I gave like a 72, 73 score when I played it on the 3DO. And that game has like an opening cutscene, and then there's like no story for the remainder of the game. You get like some lines of dialogue when you fight a boss on the map, and then that's it. And then I played Fire Emblem Gilmore Girls earlier. That is still a better tactics game than this. I would still give it a higher score than I give this game. But there's nothing mechanically that is worth failing this game over. It's not like the game doesn't work. It's not like the game does, like the game is unplayable because the difficulty's too hard, or the maps are broken, or there's game-breaking glitches. It's just very woefully boring, and it just doesn't make a 70. It's a 68 score for me. That's my final verdict. I'm sorry I couldn't beat it. I was really hoping to come to some deeper understanding about why Victor Ireland threw everything he had into this game, into localizing it, but I don't really get why. The 3DO mention made you go in a brief rabbit hole to see why the console flopped. The reason that the console flopped is a combination of a couple of things. It was difficult to develop for, was one, and it had a very, very poor launch release. Road Rash was really the big thing that the game had going for it, but they delayed certain things, they rushed certain announcements, they made last-minute changes to their hardware that different games that were ready in development couldn't keep up with, so it had a poor launch library. But what the 3DO is capable of is actually pretty incredible, and I really enjoyed playing it earlier in the year to experience that level of gameplay. Yeah, no, but the reasons I mentioned were the main thing. Like, this thing could have hit the market if it really wanted to, but it did so many last-minute things that it just flopped so hard at launch. And even the things like Road Rash weren't enough to keep too much interest. Yeah, it was a high price tag, which which might have been more justified if they had the library to back it up. See, I'd rather talk about the 3DO than this game by the middle of my review, because it's just more. Yeah, so I think it was like extraordinarily high, I would think. So, because I know they came out with the Gold Star model, which was quite a bit cheaper. It was like what, $599, $699, $699 when it launched in like 1993-ish. So it was something around that price. And you have to understand, this is like 92, so it's like what is that with inflation right now? 1,200, 1,300 more, possibly? Yeah, everything. I guess you could argue everything. I don't know. That's not necessarily true, though, Jevil. Like, the Xbox 360 was actually competitively priced when it butt heads against the PlayStation 3. So not every console is obscenely priced on launch. It just feels like that sometimes. But the Xbox 360, I think, actually priced itself well. The PS2, when it was launched, was basically comparable price-wise to the DVD players that you would find at Best Buy or a lot of these stores back on launch. And it was a DVD player in addition to being a console. So for people who didn't own a DVD player, there was your incentive to buy it at whatever its launch price was. Yeah, it cost more than the PS3 launch, which is nuts. It is nuts to think about just how high some of these launch prices were. And then, you think about things like the Atagui. I'm combining Atari and Jaguar, because the Jaguar actually. No, what am I thinking of? The Jaguar was like less than $300. It might have been the Lynx. What do the Lynx cost? Yeah, the Link was, $179. No, I think I must be thinking of a different console. I don't remember what it was. You'll hate the DualShock 3 with a passion. Oh, man. I never owned the PlayStation 3, so I bypassed the 3 entirely. I got a 2, which is basically the equivalent of having like a PlayStation 1, a 4, and a 5. I skipped 1 and 3. So, yeah. tried to find the PS4 version on Amazon. It's definitely out of stock. That's pretty telling. Oh, the PS4 version of this game? Yeah, this cost me like what? 50. It cost me about $50. It's exclusive for this and the Vita. And there's also cross compatibility with the Vita. So if you have a copy of this on your Vita and this, you can transfer your save data from this to the Vita, and from the Vita to the PlayStation 5 or PlayStation 4. So if you're in the middle of playing the game and you're like, oh my gosh, this conversation is taking so long, I need to take this game with me and listen to the rest of them talking later, you have the privilege of being able to do that. You just need to spend like $50-something for the Vita copy, and then whatever it costs for the PlayStation 4 copy. Yeah. Yeah, early Blu-ray players have 800 to 1100. I mean, that's basically, it was pretty obscene buying DVD players back when they first launched, quite honestly. So, I mean, not all I mean, all of it, to circle back to the point, like, not all initial console launch prices are actually too terribly ridiculous. It just, sometimes you just need to see another price to be like, okay, yeah, that's ridiculous. This is more reasonable, and then just go for that. But in any event, I am sorry, Victor Ireland. This is not a very good game. I cannot recommend it to anybody. It doesn't even reach the so-so range level of gameplay. A 75 would be solid. This is not a solid game. There are so many better tactics games out there. Play Guardian War on the 3DO. Play Fire Emblem. Play Shining Force. Play any number of the other tactics games that may be out there. Play Final Fantasy Tactics, or play the advanced versions of this. New Nintendo console. I keep hearing about the Switch 2, but I don't know too much about it and what they're going to have on it. Yeah, I mean, like I said, it's not, the game itself functions and it plays okay. It's just not a failure. I mean, it's just not, there's nothing mechanically about this game which is like, this game can't hit a 60, this game can't do this. I'm just like, I was hovering on the fence about whether to give this game a 70 or not, and it's gonna get a 68. It's just not broken enough for me to like score it like abysmally low. I don't fail too many games unless I absolutely have to. Yeah, it exists. It shouldn't. I mean, it's basically just like nothing more than a glorified crossover game with characters that I don't know if I would like more in their original stories or not. I wish this game had more of an integral core narrative. I did like the fact that it did switch the main character midway through, because the main character kind of sucked. And sort of the traveling companion, except for Kyle. But I do like this cast of characters a lot more. They are more interesting, but unfortunately the game just is so boring. Yeah, 3DO was the only game I failed this year. So far, knock on wood, is the only game I failed so far this year. But 3DO was a terrible point-and-click adventure game. It was very innovative, but it was entirely too easy to fail that game. And fail at it. And I'm purely convinced the people who made that game never played a 3DO game or played any minigame in their life, because the controls made no sense. So what does that leave for tonight? Well, all I'm going to say, without spoiling too much, is we are going to be playing a tactics game that should be way better than this one. That's all I'm going to say. That's all I'm going to tease. That's the only thing I'm going to leave people with. I'll leave all of you to speculate and wonder what that tactics game may be. But that's tonight. And I'm going to go ahead and get ready to get dressed to go out to take my parents out to eat. But it was good to see everybody here. Rise, Weird Pro Q, Jevil, and Mackenzel. I appreciate everybody's company. Is it a Nintendo game? Yes. I will spoil that much about it, but that's all you're gonna get. It's on some conceivable Nintendo console. It could be a console, could be a handheld, could be a Virtual Boy game. But it's not a Virtual Boy game. But it could be. I could be lying to you right now. Who knows? I'm just chatting. On and on, like this game seems to do. All right, everybody. Thank you all for stopping by. Time to get dressed. Bye.